Hey everyone, this is Jacinta Alicia at The Empowered Professional, and I'm an empowerment coach that helps you build a career and a life that you both deserve and desire. Today we're going to talk about the number one thing that you're missing in your career and in your life. Now, I'm so honored and grateful that you're here with me today. Let's get right into it. Now, the number one thing that you're missing in your career and in your life is simply a value audit. A value audit allows you to be clear on what's most meaningful to you in your life and also in your career. It allows you to act accordingly and also to prioritize those values and the way that you spend your time. And I'm going to break this down a little bit further for you, but first I'm going to give you more backstory on where this concept came from and how I've applied it in my own life. Now, where this concept or philosophy came from is two different places really, and I'll give context to explain. And I'll add that this is my own philosophy that I've lived in my life and I've helped others with so that they can make sure that they're living in alignment with what is really important to them in their life. So first, it came from a pivotal point in my life and basically asking myself, who did I want to be? What sort of person did I want to be? And I made a list of these things, basically who I wanted to be, okay? After doing that, I went through the list and I circled keywords, and those keywords I translated into values that I wanted to use as a compass in my life in terms of how I spent my time. The second part to this is it also came from, it's a book that was written by a nurse, a hospice nurse actually, and it's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. Maybe you've heard of this book, and if not, write it down, go Google it after you watch this video. But this book that was written basically outlines the top 5 regrets of the dying in her work and people that were at the end of their lives. And the number one regret was people wishing that they had lived a life that was more authentic to them and what they wanted and not what others expected of them. And I'll give you a sneak peek into number 2 because it's related to what we're talking about. And that was, they wish they didn't work so hard, okay? Now, I encourage you to go look at the remaining 5 on this list. But what this really forces you to do and what it has forced me to do and how I've applied this is it really makes you get very, very clear on what is the most important thing to you when you fast forward into the future and look back on how you've spent the time in your life, and if that's genuinely in alignment with what is most important to you, not based on what others told you or telling you is most important to you, but what you decide is most important to you. One thing I'll add when it comes to this practice, in order for it to really land and for it to be effective, you really need to take time to fast forward and to understand when you look at your life in reverse, whether that's you at 80 years old, 90 years old, whatever age it is, but it's going to be some point in the very, very distant future. But when you look back on your life, will you have wished you did differently, or how you will have wished you spent your time? You can also apply this in a different way to say, or think rather, that, if you were told today that you only had a year to live, or that you had 6 months to live, what things would you eliminate from your life, or what things would you question in terms of how you spend your time? These are just different lenses to really look at this from a different angle so that you can get clear on where you want to spend your time. The reason why I keep talking about time is, frankly, there are some truths that we have to grapple with. And that is, one, we frankly do not know how much time we have on this earth. That is just the truth of the matter. And the second is that our time is the one thing that we cannot get back. It's the currency in which we give to others or to the things that we put our energy into that, frankly, once it's expended, we cannot give it back. And so frankly, it should be our most protected resource and our most protected asset, because that is what it is. It is an asset, and the way you spend your time, the way you live your life, it dictates ultimately, one, who you are. It also dictates the results that you get when it comes to your future and the outcomes that you yield. So it's everything. Your time is freaking everything. I cannot emphasize that enough. That is truly why the value audit is significant, something that you need to do. Even if it scares you or makes you uncomfortable, especially because I'm talking about death, and that's where part of this concept came from. And that is something that is uncomfortable. And listen, I understand that wholeheartedly. This was something that took me a while to get used to doing without being as uncomfortable. But doing it so consistently for the last 2 years now, it has become normal for me. And it's so much easier for me to identify when I am out of alignment with the things that truly matter to me. So next, we're going to get into what some examples of values are to help kind of give you a baseline, and just some examples to illustrate and to help support you in doing your own value audit. All right, so some examples of values in your career and in your life. Side note, before we go there, these values are not going to be tied to status or to money. They are going to be more exponential and deeper than that. They're not necessarily going to be things that others can see, all right? So they are deeper. They're not just money, and they're not status, okay? In your career, some examples could be integrity, being someone of your word, doing things that are honest and true. Whatever integrity might mean for you ultimately might be a guiding principle and value in your career. Another might be having an impact, regardless of what industry you work in, what your role is, and what you do for your job each day. Maybe having an impact and making a difference either on others or within the industry that you work is important and meaningful to you, and really why you do what you do. Another might also be challenge and growth, making sure that you do not stagnate, that you are always moving beyond where you currently are, and that you're growing and evolving, and that's what you seek, and another reason why you have the career that you have. Now on the life side, I'm giving you a clue as to what one of these might be. On the life side, one might be your family, whether that's your chosen family, your children if you have them, your significant other, whatever your family ultimately looks like and you define it as, spending time with them, being with them as much as possible might be one of your values. Another one might be service to others, and that might be through, volunteering your time or helping organizations or causes that you believe in outside of your career, and ultimately how you make your money to provide for yourself. And then a sense of adventure is another one. Maybe trying new things, traveling, or whatever adventure means for you, because it's a pretty broad one. So the beauty is you get to define it ultimately. But adventure might be another one. These are just a few examples. You can look up online other examples too to kind of think about what might be most important to you ultimately, to help kind of narrow down what those values are for you. Now, I want you to actually go and apply this and do this for yourself. I'll have more videos that are going to dive deeper into this practice, the value audit. But your homework in the meantime, before you watch the other videos, is to brainstorm what you think your values are, again, in your career and also in your life. You can set aside 10 minutes, find some quiet time wherever you can do that, where you're uninterrupted. even if that's in the bathroom and it's on your phone, whatever works for you ultimately. But you do want to be quiet and uninterrupted and take that time to really just brainstorm. You don't want to necessarily get super in depth with it because we're going to do that in the next two videos, but instead just brainstorm. Think about how you spend your time already. You can also think about how you want to spend your time, because maybe you frankly are not fulfilled or happy or have joy with the way you currently do that, and that's perfectly okay. Think about those things and just make a list, and then save that list, because we will use that in the next videos to kind of narrow this down for you. Now that's it for today's video. In the next video, we'll be getting more into the why behind this value audit to give you even more insight and more tools for you to apply this in your own life. In the meantime, please like this video if it was useful or if you enjoyed it. And I would love to hear from you too. Whatever your thoughts were, please drop a comment below and share this with whoever you think might benefit. If you know someone who really seems to be out of alignment or is just unhappy, unfulfilled in their life or their career, this is the video for them. All right, stay safe out there. Until next time.